This month's bullet journal theme is Harry Potter, and specifically the Prisoner of Azkaban. This theme has been in my head for a long time. I wanted to do it last fall during Halloween, but became obsessed with Edgar Allan Poe and did that instead. But that left a lot of time for me to prep, plan an epic bullet journal spread for our favorite wizards at Hogwarts. I can't wait for you to see all of it pulled together. There was a lot of prepping and planning, including that pop-up time turner you saw at the beginning. So let's take a look at the time turner. Originally, I had a simple idea based on the spinning heart Valentine, just to have the spinner in the center moving, and then that morphed into a much more, I guess, epic. I'll use the word epic pop-up time turner. If you find that you don't have a lot of time to do what I'm doing here, and I fully understand that a lot of people don't, this spinning Valentine is a perfect thing to do instead of this more detailed spread. I did a lot of different versions coming up with this version. This is my personal design. I've never actually designed my own personal pop-up, but this required it. So we're going to get into the weeds, as they say, on how to get this thing pulled together. Not to worry if you're having trouble following along, because I have a new venture, dipping into the world of Etsy, where you can go and purchase a downloadable time turner DIY of your own. It's quick and easy to do, and I hope I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that the directions were clear and concise, and even bettering on what you see in this picture. With any luck, your time turner will be far better than my own. You kind of learn from your mistakes. So I'm using a Helix tool, and we're going to create some duplicate spreads here. So you're going to use the Helix to do a 2-inch circle, then you're going to go in and do a 1.5 circle, and then a 1-inch circle. That creates the different circles. You're going to have a vertical circle and a horizontal circle, and then the mechanisms in the center are your spinner. Once you get everything drawn, your circles, then you draw the sides of the time turner that make it look like a lovely piece of jewelry. I opted to not have the chain attached in my bullet journal, but you can easily add one if you like. Once you have your circles drawn, it's duplicates on both pages. You go in and cut it out. I am using an Exacto knife. I would recommend using an Exacto or some sort of utility cutter. It just makes your life a lot easier and things a little bit more precise. So you'll see me here duplicating the sides because I wanted them to match up. If you purchase the download, you will not have to do that. The sides are perfectly symmetrical, and they should match up as long as your cutting is done well. So I'm cutting out the center hourglass portion, and then there'll be 2 center circles where we will draw the sand. In the end, you'll end up with 8 pieces plus your base. If you find that they don't match up, you can kind of go in with the Exacto like I did and trim it up. And now we are getting into some of the details. I'm drawing another one here. I just wanted to have a bit of a backup. All right. So you can decorate your time turner any way you wish. I decided to get a little bit fancy. I'm using a sticker metallic vinyl paper so it looks like actual metal and jewelry. I started off working with the Exacto, but found out that the scissors worked actually much better. I didn't think they would, but they really worked a lot better. I was able to cut it and not have to deal so much with the stickiness. All right, you can see how they match up. Where they don't, you can color it black to create some shadows. It actually adds to the whole look. So I'm showing you how it pieces together here, but we're going to do a few more details before we get to that. Again, if you are following along and finding it difficult, I'm going to do a separate video with the pop-up that you can purchase on Etsy so that you can follow along more easily step by step and figure this out. I use a little sparkle glitter for my sand, and we're piecing things together. We're not gluing yet, we're just making sure we have everything in order. So on a typical time turner, there is an inscription, and I went in with my pencil and sort of lightly pushed down so there was a bit of embroidery. If you are working with this vinyl sticker paper, I'll put the link. I purchased it on Amazon, so you can use that link, and if that isn't available, you can Google. There were lots of different options. So I'm writing the inscription in pencil, and then I'm going to go back with my acrylograph pen and put those words on there. Not to worry, when I get to that point, the words that go on the time turner will show up on the screen. I try to think of everything. I had so much on my desk, including a wand I made with my kids. I work with kids, if I haven't mentioned that before, if you haven't seen my videos. All right, so for stability, we're going to add some tabs to the bottom of the time turner. This just makes sure that it isn't wobbly, and every time you open, it will pop up. So if you, again, purchase the download, the tabs are already added on and you can skip this step. If you're going to do this yourself, then you should add the tabs on. I added them at the end just because I wanted to sort of make some decisions about how wide they needed to be. While I had done this previously, as you get into the final version, there are always things that sort of pop up. The version that you will get in the downloadable has been streamlined. After doing this and doing it the others a couple of times, I came up with some directions and things that I think that can make things easier, like the addition of the tabs already on there. So I'm just gluing them on. Notice that I am being conscious of the placement. You want to make sure that it lines up perfectly. So I'm going in with my acrylograph pen and adding the star detail that you would find on a time turner. I'm going to do this on both sides. If you want to make your time turner look like it's spinning in different directions, you can also choose to place one of the sides up and one side vertical when you glue these together to make it look like that it's spinning in a different direction as it goes around. All right, so I'm cutting some thread. I cut a really long piece. You don't need that much thread. I would say about an 8-inch piece of thread should be just fine. So I centered it, glued it down, and now I'm gluing the top on, and now I'm going to face it down the other way and glue the other section on. We're going to leave this to dry thoroughly. It's super important so our string doesn't move. So there's a little film on this paper. I'm taking that off before I do the acrylographs, and here are the words for the time turner. I am just writing those on both sides. Normally it would only be on one side, but because this is a pop-up and basically an approximation of the time turner, we are doing it on both sides. So no matter which side you look, you'll see the inscription. I even chose to write it on the bottom. That's not really necessary, but these pieces are interchangeable. That is until you put the thread through, which you'll see in a moment. So I took my base and I pre-colored it with my Posca pen. I figured there was no need for you to see that portion, but this is just 110 GSM cardstock paper. All of the pop-up mechanisms are made out of this paper. It is strong enough to sort of keep it together, but flexible enough so that we can still bend it and get things done. I'm using a corner cutter that I found on Amazon. It's a great tool. This one has 3 different sizes. So we are measuring up 4.5 inches. That's where I am putting my line. And then 2 inches out. That's where we're going to enter our thread a little bit later on. I'm putting it on both sides so that we can find it. There we are. So these are things you need to know so that we can piece things together. I'm putting a slit there at the fold. This is where the tabs are going to go in. Yours are pre-measured on the downloadable. I was figuring it out as I went because I didn't size it beforehand. Alright, so now we're piecing everything together. Notice we haven't glued anything just yet. We're figuring everything out. I'm making the slits just a little bit deeper so that it fits in there very easily. And then we will glue our first pieces together. How we glue it is super important. If you glue it beforehand, it's a little hard to redo things. And actually, I forgot a step. I'll let you know what that was in a second when it happens, but before you glue it together, you want to put your thread in. I forgot to put my thread in. It was easy to open it up and put it back in, but I recommend doing it before. It's less of a headache. You'll see I'm using my black marker, just kind of creates shadows where that white is. You don't want that showing. You can pre-color it if you like, or you can do it this way. I'm using a combination of different markers. This is the Tombow brush pen in black, and I use the Posca pen to do the background. Alright, so our circle that goes on the side is in there. We positioned it, but we haven't glued anything else. You'll see I put the thread in at this point. I'm threading the needle with about 8 inches of thread. 10 inches just just to be safe. And I'm not knotting it. I'm going to glue it, and I'm also going to tie a little knot just to keep that thread in there to make sure it holds and stays for the test of time. We're going in with the needle on the other side. This will stabilize your pop-up and force it to come up to the shape that you want. This is super important. We'll get to that portion of it a little bit later. Right now we're just gluing everything together. So notice that we have an open side to our time turner. We're doing this on purpose because if we don't, it becomes impossible to get our spinner inside because we have 2 circles that are intertwined. I'm using some craft tape, which is sturdy and strong, to position and tape our spinner. We want to make sure that this is taut and very well secured because this is one of those things that we're going to constantly be moving. I'm pinning down the extra thread on the side. I don't cut it at first because you want to have a little extra thread just in case it starts pulling a little bit. So now I'm securing it at the bottom. I'm going to secure it with craft tape. I recommend in the downloadable that we pull it through the slit. It's just a little bit of extra security, keeps it nice and taut. If something should go wrong and it doesn't, hold like it used to, you can kind of go in a little bit and secure it underneath to make sure that it stays. Alright, so we got our strings, we're checking that out. We are putting our glue on there, and then I don't typically glue it down. With a pop-up, you want it to sort of position naturally. So you put your glue on, you close it, and then glue it down. All right, now it's time to go in with our thread and position it into that point, or these what will be holes. If you have the downloadable, it shows you exactly where to go, but we're going at that 2-inch mark at 4.5 inches up, and this will stabilize and position our time turner. So we're pulling that thread through and pulling it exactly where we want it to be. Maybe you want your time turner tilted on its side a little bit instead of straight up. It's really up to you, but I'm using the craft tape to tape it down just initially, and then I'm going to create a I, so the letter I. So 2 pieces of tape vertically and 1 horizontally. I should say 2 horizontally and 1 vertically. I'm doing the same thing on the other side. You want to make sure that it's all the way open so that you can see where it's positioned. There we go. All right, now that we have everything set up, it's time to glue it down. Putting my eye on the other side, we're going to glue down that tab. This is all for stability. You see how it just pops up and stands on its own, but when you fold it up, it folds up nice and flat. The first times you do it, you might have to go in and help it out. So I am drawing Big B here, which we meet in the Prisoner of Azkaban. I decided to focus on this particular book, movie, if you will, because it has some of the best props in it. I'm one of those people, I watch a film and I'm not just looking at the what's happening with the characters, but all the props and the set decoration I find so fascinating and interesting. And the world of Harry Potter is just full of fascinating props. We get the Marauders map, we get the time turner, just a lot of great things. I'm going in here with a combination of Uniball metallic pens and doing some Harry Potter font, or I should say Harry Potter-esque fonts. I'm still working on that. And now the Patronus charm painting. This image from the film is just magical, and I have been seeing this image in Harry Potter websites and magazines, etc., and I decided I really wanted to recreate it. It was this image that really dictated the color scheme for the entire spread. I changed things up a bit. You'll notice that certain things that would be other colors are black, basically because the world in terms of my bullet journal is being dictated by this particular painting. I did this painting first. You saw that in the beginning. I did some tests. I just wanted to make sure I was using the right materials. I knew I wanted to use the black paper from the Archer and Olive journal, the ones that you can pull out. So I went in and did some tests, and I'm using a combination of jelly gouache and metallic watercolor. This map gave me the blues. My eyesight, I wear contacts, and the writing on this map is so small. I don't know why I thought what the map said was going to be super important, but I bought a replica of the map because I wanted to make sure I was writing the right words down, but I'm not sure the map actually had the words from the map on it. So I did what was on the map and created this. This is going to be my trackers. I'm super excited about this. You don't see the trackers because I am using invisible ink. It's super cool, or I thought it was super cool. I just wanted to try to make each spread as magical as the world. And I did some things that I probably wouldn't normally do, like the invisible ink that you can only see with a special light. All right, now let's talk about Sirius Black. Now, we don't see this in the Prisoner of Azkaban, but I went ahead and decided to use it anyway because I thought this wallpaper or wall hanging that you see in the Black family home was just an amazing detail from the movie. I also wanted to approximate those moving posters, so that's coming up next. I tried a bunch of different mechanisms, and then I settled on the one that I thought would work the easiest. I printed out some newspaper from the film that I found online and created this. All right, so what we're doing here is a moving picture frame, and I'm gonna post a link in the description box of how to do this. Matthew Reinhart, who produces these incredible pop-up books, I own a few. He does a great tutorial on how to do this, much better than I could ever explain it, and so I'm just gonna let the master do his work. But here I am creating my version of that frame so that it looks like the moving pictures and posters in the Harry Potter world. I am using the serious poster. You'll have the screaming portion and then the typical photo you would take when you're being booked by the police or the Ministry of Magic. You'll see how this works in a minute. I would recommend, I made a mistake here and I fixed it later, and I would recommend just gluing the other picture down after, just so you don't have any problems. And I didn't actually find it very difficult once I got the frame on and everything to actually glue the picture on when I made the changes. So you see it's moving, and now we're gonna go in and put the newspaper on top so that it matches. I wanted the details to be there. I know it's not the poster exactly, but I figured I have some leeway because it's my bullet journal and I can do what I want. All right, let's talk about the houses. So this is something you see in so many bullet journals. I found these great crests for the houses, and I based my spreads for each house on these crests. You'll see the crest in a minute. I thought it looked so much like a prep school tie. That was what I was going for, making this look like one of those prep school ties that you might purchase if you went to a prep school, or even if you went to college. A lot of times you go to the bookstore and you find like a tie. I'm a Penn State grad, so you would find like a navy blue and silver tie in there. Not a lot of stuff for women actually, but for the men or women who wish to wear ties, there were ties, and I thought this was a great inspiration for my monthly spread. So each house gets their own spread. I started with Slytherin. I didn't put these in any particular order. I just sort of started drawing them, and that's how it went. Hufflepuff here. I really love these crests. I put tabs on. If we want to talk specifically about the setup, I often do a rolling weekly, but lately I have been finding that it hasn't been as necessary because of how my weeks are going. So I don't really need to go back and forth. I can focus on the one thing. There's usually a little bit of space in my journal that I will write what I need to for the major projects I have to get done for the month, but I didn't think I really needed to do that this month, and it worked out for this particular spread. So there's a week on each spread. Because of the way May is laid out, there are a few days that end up on other pages, like the serious page, and in the end where my trackers are, you'll see another where there's a couple of dates that don't fit into the other weeks. Ravenclaws. I have been sorted, and I am a Ravenclaw. I'm super excited because I love Luna Lovegood, and I actually really love how these spreads came together. The brightness of it, There's black in all of them. It's the common thread through all of the posts. I actually had toyed with making the wall hanging for the black family, converting it to black, but I felt like the green was just necessary, and it was okay to have that little change in pop of color, that it didn't ruin my overall theme. I'm using the Archer and Olive acrylograph pens and in the primary colors, and Tombow markers along with Posca for the black. All right, final spread, getting in here, getting everything done. I should say final spread for the houses. Have you been sorted? I'm curious. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this theme. I think the beauty of these Harry Potter themes is you can really just simplify. You could just do the stripes without the print details. You could do it without the crest, or you could simply print out the crests and glue them onto your bullet journal pages. Not everything requires some brand artistic ability. You can just go and do other things. All right, our final painting. I thought a lot about this tracker. I thought a lot about how to accomplish it, but ultimately I wanted this tracker to look like that Hogwarts dining hall scene where the sky is all starry and the candles are up, and each day of the month I'm gonna go in and, I guess you could say, light one of these candles. This is a simple watercolor. There's details, but not a whole lot of detail. I did try to go in and take a look at those windows that exist in the Hogwarts dining hall back in the back where the faculty sit, but I found it so difficult to see what was really happening in those windows, and every drawing that I saw online had something different. So I said, it's okay, I can do what I want here. And besides, it's not really about those drawings, it's about the candles, so I didn't want to bring too much attention to it anyway. I'm mixing a bunch of different blues in this painting. I will list them down in the description box if you are wondering. I'm just using those to create variations of color in the stained glass to make it look like there's different light coming through. I'm using a small watercolor brush, and then I used a large watercolor brush to do the water on the page. I didn't want to paint this directly into my bullet journal because I knew that I was going to need quite a bit of water on the page to make this happen. When I put watercolor paper in my bullet journal, it definitely makes it a lot thicker. I haven't done too much of that this year, but I felt like it was necessary for this painting in order for me to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish with it. There's some parts of this that I wish I could change, but I'm like, it's okay. So I'm going in here with the yellow, just places where there will be candles to sort of look like there's candlelight on the wall. Painting in a few more details, a little bit more blue because this is at night. I use my acrylograph pen to add some little details in the clouds and to create some stars up there. Also just to highlight a few things on the painting. I don't think you can really pick up those highlights in the camera here, but when you're looking at it in person, you can see it. I'm using a Posca marker here to create the candles. It's funny how the candles look like they're already lit, but they are not. Alright, time to glue everything into place. I created everything out of order So sometimes you'll see something and be like, hey, she hasn't done that yet. I do things often in order in terms of artwork, in terms of what I'm working with. So if I'm working with paints, I want to get all the painting done. But I felt for this spread it was important to present the pages in order. So we're just gluing it in. I actually left the washi on because I really wanted it to be all together. I went in with the Uniball metallic pin just to create some border. Time for the final flip. We're going to flip through what is, for me anyway, a pretty epic spread. An idea that became an even bigger idea, leading to another big idea. I just really wanted to harness a tiny bit of the magic that exists in the books and films to be with me through the month of May, just in time for Harry Potter Day. I really enjoy the final flip through in not just my videos, but on all the videos. It really gives you a time to reflect about your favorite things. This is one of them. I'm shining the light on this tracker page. You can't really see it, but they are there. This is probably a step too far, but in terms of whimsy, I made some really bold choices, and I'm quite proud of them. This is, of course, my bullet journal, and these little whimsical moments, for me anyway, are the perfect opportunity when it's really stressful during the month, and there's always stressful points, to go back and just sort of play. And I think that's one of the really beautiful things about bullet journaling. I can create a space for myself where I can both achieve my goals, track my goals, but also connect with my journal artistically and put the things I need in there. Okay, time to talk digital download. I want to start off by saying you can find the digital download at my Etsy shop, Creative Art Co. I'll put a link in the description box to the store to make things a little bit easier. The digital download will include directions, the template, and reference images. It will also have an accompanying video that you can turn to if you prefer that way of putting things together, or you can use both. I know that people learn differently, so I try to cover all angles. All right, if you enjoy this content, please take the time to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss any videos that are uploaded.